Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's event. I'm going to give everyone some time to start trickling in. Welcome to today's session. While we wait for others to join, chat down below and let us know where you're tuned in from and what college you attend. My name is Jade from the Way Up Events team. I'm tuned in from Chicago and I went to Howard University. So if you all are joining in, I sent a message in the chat, but welcome. We're going to wait for a couple more people to join, but in the meantime, chat down below and let us know where you're tuned in from and what college you attend. If you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A section, which is at the bottom of your screen. All attendees are on mute and cameras are off. And to ensure this meets the highest level of ethical conduct, professionalism, and service, we ask you to be kind and thoughtful in your interactions with our speakers and your fellow attendees. Thank you for your understanding and for helping us make this a positive experience for all involved. So for everyone who's just now joining, I'm Jade from the Way Up Events team, and welcome to today's event, which is titled How to Interview Prep Like a Pro with Hiration. So Hiration is a platform that if you have a Way Up account, you'll also have access to. And I'll send a link to that too. So you can, it's a free account and they have resources to help you with your resume and interview prep. And they are a proud partner of us with Way Up, and we have a representative from Hiration, Praneet, who's going to walk you through Hiration as well as how to use this platform. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things on to Praneet.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jade. And thanks a lot, everyone, for being a part of this session. Personally, I'm thrilled to be here and to have this opportunity to do this with all of you here. And I really hope that by the end of it, each and every one of us, we leave the session with some really interesting takeaways that you can use to actually accelerate your career. So just a quick introduction, so you know you're in safe hands. So my name is Praneet. I'm the head of content at Hiration. So Hiration is part of the Y Combinator batch of summer 2020. And till now, we've helped more than 1 million job seekers across pretty much the entire globe. Our journey started with the humble resume. Over the course of years, we talked to thousands of job seekers and companies and recruiters. And over the last few years, interview preparation, our latest offering, that has received a lot of great reviews. So I'm personally psyched to give you an idea of what all this platform can do and how you can use it to really change your interview game going forward. So this is what broadly we'll be covering in today's session. We'll start off with clearing some misconceptions around interview success and interview process and interview failures. And but quickly we'll jump down to an actual process that you can follow using the platform to actually crack your next interview. And we'll be discussing multiple ways in which you can go about practicing interviews and to make it really highly tailored and highly personalized for your requirements. And we'll discuss how, the practice module on the platform, how using that you can, sort of focus and identify on your areas of improvement, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and actually gain a deeper understanding of where exactly you need to focus on. Finally, we'll discuss some broad topics around going beyond just the next interview and to actually take a step back and review your career trajectory, that's in store for you and how you, the steps that you can take right now, they can really make your future self really thank you for taking those steps in the present moment. So, yeah, so before I start, I really want to ask this question and really I love asking this question because every time I do, I get a lot of interesting opinions and observations. So please feel free to leave your answers in the chat section. But I want to understand is what do you feel are the biggest obstacles in your interview preparation journey, or what factors do you think are preventing you from actually materializing your potential in terms of interview success? So please take a moment if you want, but just what you feel are your personal obstacles to interview success. So I would be checking out the chat section for any interesting insights or observations that some of you might have. So please feel free to drop it in the chat section. Like, what are your biggest obstacles? So Gabriel mentions not knowing how to answer a question that I'm not prepared for. Precisely, that's a great, like, that is the biggest sort of blocker when you, like, before, that feeling in the gut before the interview starts, is rooted in that fear that, like, you, like, what happens if you, like, someone throws in a question that you are not ready for or that you don't know the answer for. So that's a great concern, and we would be addressing that in the session as well. Ethan mentions not being able to articulate that I'm the candidate, not one of the. Exactly. Again, that's a great, like, great sort of. That's a very universal problem as well. That, like, internally we are convinced that, like, we are the right person for the job, but how to actually communicate that in a short span, like, for the interview, that really is a challenging thing. And then nerves, insecurity, obstacles, anxiety, stuttering, like, when I'm solving a coding problem, don't know how to keep it candid but also rehearsed. These are some really interesting fears. Most of the time I forget during interview who's my audience, and I share my big dream and they eventually rejected me. As a computer science, the biggest obstacle is getting rejected before the. Yeah, so these are all, like, like, very real, very significant challenges that, like, almost all of us, they, as job seekers, we sort of go through when we have to overcome in our job, in our, like, interview preparation and job search journey. So even in our sort of Hiration's journey, when we started off, we, like, interviewed and talked to thousands of job seekers across the globe to try to understand, like, what are the most common problem areas when it comes to interview preparation. In our sort of journey, we realized that the lack of personalized feedback, like, when we were able to sort of like, classify all the individual responses, the single recurring theme that stood out was that job seekers, and especially, like, in today's job market and today's environment, they hardly receive any actionable feedback. So, and that's a very unfortunate, but that unfortunately is the nature of the beast. So you apply, like, even just getting to the point of interview, like, stage, that alone is a journey of its own. And then you finally go to an interview, and then for some reason, if you're rejected, very rarely will the recruiter or will the interviewer actually have the time or the patience to like, give you feedback at, like, a question level or at, like, an overall interview level, that, like, what were the reasons, what were the genuine reasons, not your standard template reasons, but in your case specifically, what were the reasons why, like, they went ahead with someone else, or why they felt that you were not the right person for the job. So this kind of feedback, this lack of feedback, actually plays a huge role, because if you don't know what your areas of improvement are, where you need to focus and work upon, you are destined to repeat the same, like, problem areas, and, like, again and again in all your interviews. So lack of feedback, if, like, in our experience, if candidates, like, if they are able to somehow gain more insights around where they are lacking, what are the problem areas, then they have a much better understanding of what the actual steps are that they need to take in order to crack the interview stage. Lack of confidence, again, it's a very like, it's a very broad like, problem area, and the causes of that can stem from pretty much everything that all of you discussed in the chat section just now. Everything from anxiety and nerves and lack of preparation, lack of like, maybe, like, not knowing, lack of, like, technical incompetency, or, like, technical lack of, or fear of technical knowledge. So all of these sort of cluster areas, they eventually give that impression that you are not confident in that interview. So, and honestly, this is only a function of preparation. So the more you prepare, the more you practice, automatically, without you even consciously doing something in particular, that confidence will be reflected for sure in that interview. And that is all you need to go for. Finally, identifying the right course also, like, stemmed as, like, a recurring concern area, because most students have a very, or most job seekers, they would have identified very specific pain points that they need to work upon. So they don't have to necessarily go for, like, an entire course or, like, a step-by-step workflow. Mostly they would need to identify or address just a few problem points, and then uniquely just work on those. So a course that is personalized to your concerns, to your problem areas, that is really hard to find as a job seeker. So based on all these causes and based on all our interviews and discussions with job seekers, so and in addition to that, there are a lot of facts and statistics that really sort of knock it out of the park. So most interviewers will be prioritizing communication over technical knowledge. So and because the fact that you have reached the interview stage, that alone means that some level of technical competency has already been assessed. And what they now want to do in the interview is to gauge your communication skills and see how well you will be able to fit in with the team. So most job seekers, they tend to fixate on the technical competency aspect of it, and they tend to deprioritize communication skills. So that is a huge mistake, because employers would be prioritizing communications hands down. There are employers who would be focusing on seemingly trivial things like attire or body language. I know there are a lot of people who tend to downplay that, but again, unfortunately, these things do play a huge role. They compound in all these small elements. They play and end up contributing a huge role in the final assessment call when it's taken. Most candidates would not even be completely familiar with the exact company that they're targeting. Either they would be targeting across dozens of companies, dozens of roles. So that also plays a huge role, because the company would want to attract job seekers or employers who have done their research, for whom the company is not just one of the many places where they're applying. That is what the company basically wants to filter when they are going through the entire pool of applicants. And again, a sad statistic, but only about 20% of the applicants on average, they actually manage to reach the interview stage. So again, the downside, the flip side to that is that that alone means that if you have reached the interview stage, then you already are in the top 20%, number one. And number two, that also means that some level of technical competency is already in the clear for you. So now what you now need to focus on is everything else that goes beyond just the technical aspect of the role. So again, there are a lot of people who would like to wing interviews as well. They, if they have confidence in their technical ability, there are people who can pull that off as well. But you would not want to leave something like that to chance, because in interviews you do not get a second chance. So it is always better if you prepare, because then if you're prepared, that confidence will be reflected in that interview. And majority of the recruiters would be using video interview in some form or the other at one stage or the other of the job search process. Self-assessment is also a very critical thing that is usually lacking in most job search processes, because candidates don't have the right avenue to if you give them the tool or the platform, they can do it. But most candidates won't have the right tool wherein they can drive the self-assessment part of the job preparation process. But if you only focus on the self-assessment, that alone can help you sort of gain a massive edge over the competition. Even trivial factors like even a lack of smile or intonations and how you speak, your confidence level, all of these things, they do end up playing a huge role in the final call. So now we'll quickly break down the interview process. Essentially, well, if you think about it, not just for interviews, but for anything in general, it could be learning to play the guitar or any skill or anything, that any new project that you're trying to do. Essentially, if you just learn how to do it and if you just keep on practicing, these two things alone, you don't need a third thing. So that also is true for interviews. All you need to do is learn, all you need to do is practice, and that is it. That you don't need anything else. So that's how our platform also takes care of this and structures this problem in such a way that it gives you, in a single platform, you can learn, you can, there's the learning module through which you can exactly go for an entire course as well, or if you want, you can uniquely target specific problem areas that you would want to work upon. And you can practice, you can generate personalized mock interviews. So I'll be giving you a quick demo from here of the platform itself. So all you need to do is just Jade has also shared the link on in the chat section. but this is essentially the link wayup.hiration.com. So once you just go and log in with your credentials, so this is essentially how the platform looks like when you log in for the first time. So on the tab on the top, you can find tabs for resume and other modules. So today we would be focusing on interview. So the interview practice tab is, you can find that on the top, and you will see that there are multiple ways in which you can go about uniquely practicing for your next interview. The first, and I think the coolest one, is you only have to enter a job role, and a custom interview questionnaire is generated based on that job role alone. So I can, and this is the first one. The second one is where you can actually paste the job listing or the job description that you're targeting, and the instantly an entire interview round is generated wherein you can practice, and that entire interview round is uniquely based on the job description that you are targeting. So I'll give you a quick demo of how both these tactics work, and then I'll move on. So let's say this is a data science associate role. And please, by the way, feel free to, like, in case you have job listings that may be handy somewhere, you can also leave that in the chat section. And if we have time, we can actually give you a demonstration using job descriptions that you would be sharing in the chat section. So if time permits, we can try that as well. But for our purpose, let's say if this is a sample, let's say, job that most of you, some of you might be targeting. So here, all you need to do is just copy the job description. You go back to the module, and here you just paste this entire job description, and then you click on Start Interview. So here you will notice that it has picked up the level of experience from the job description based on the company pedigree and the requirements listed in the job description. It has automatically fine-tuned the level of difficulty, and it can it can include up to 5 questions in this entire interview round. So once you click on generate interview, it takes a few seconds, but basically it sort of analyzes the entire job description that you have pasted, and based on that it can generate custom personalized interview questions on the fly that you can practice as many times as you want. So, it will analyze the company pedigree. It will analyze the functional requirements that are there in the job, requirements around education, skills, certifications, basically the entire job description. And here you have the questions ready for you. So before you start the interview, you can also view the questions. So here's a list of questions generated based on the job description that you just pasted. So here, another beautiful thing here is that for every question, you also get to understand why the question has been asked. In our experience, we also observe that once students or job seekers, once they are equipped with this knowledge of not just the question itself, but what is the idea behind the recruiter actually asking this question. So once you get that perspective in place, then it becomes really easy for you to structure your answer, as opposed to shooting in the dark and just figuring out or trying to figure out that what would be the ideal way for you to structure that answer. So here you can check out this entire list. You can check out for all the questions. You can understand that, why this question is being asked, what the recruiter's expectations are. Let's say if there is any question that you do not want to practice, or if you're confident or you don't want to do that now, or maybe leave that for later, you can also uncheck those questions here as well. And the interview that would be generated would be based on only the selected questions. So here again, so you can check out the questions, and let's say if whatever questions they work for you, let's say, and then just select the ones you want to keep, and then click on Start Interview. So now the camera screen will open. So in case you are logging for the first time, you might need to give permissions for camera or mic. You can do that from here as well. But if you're logging for the first time, it would only be needed then. But this is essentially, again, a really cool feature wherein a host of factors are updated in real time as you move across the screen. So includes your position on screen, your eye contact, how distant are you from the screen, your body posture, and so on. So as you move in real time, you can see that the factors are also changing. So before you begin the interview, you can first analyze and see what is the ideal position for you. And then once that is done, you can click on begin interview. So again, you get the question and then you get a certain thinking time. And then once the thinking time is over, then the question starts recording after that. So this was the process for generating interview questions instantly based on just a job description. But the much cooler thing is wherein you don't even need the job description. Just the job role alone is enough to generate practice mock interview questions on the fly. So to give you an example, if let's say this was a data science associate role, so I'll just try that again and see what kind of different questions do I get if it's not based on a specific JD. So let's say I type out data science associate as a role and I click on quick interview. So here, since I am not pasting a JD, so here I can also modulate all these different factors that you see in front of you. So here I can change, let's say if I have 3 years of work ex or 5 years or lesser, I can change the number of years of experience. I can also choose the difficulty level as well. So I can go for either an easy interview question or medium, hard, or a mixed bag. And then again, up to 5 questions can be included in the interview round. So let's say if I go for like a mixed difficulty level of 2 years of experience for a data science associate role. Once I click on generate interview, again, it will analyze the profile that you have entered, and based on the experience that you have chosen and the difficulty level that you're comfortable with, it will analyze all these factors. Takes up to a minute, but then instantly you can see the list of questions that are generated. So we'll just give it a few seconds. Here you go. So here you have a data science associate role, 2 years of experience, and a mixed difficulty level. So before I start, again, I can take a look at the questions. I can, for each question, I can see like, why the questions are being asked. And for example, here I can like, again, unselect like, whatever questions I don't want to practice. And then like, whatever I end up with. And then after that, I can just click on start interview. So again, the camera calibration screen, it analyzes, it calibrates a bunch of on-screen factors. And then once that is taken care of, I can click on begin interview. So now I would be recording a mock answer for you to give you an idea of what happens after the recording is done and what happens when the entire AI evaluation kicks into place. So the question here is explain the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning and machine learning. So I have some thinking time wherein I can I can use that to structure the answer. And if you want, if you're ready before that, you can start your recording before that as well. So unsupervised and supervised learning, they are components of machine learning algorithms. And supervised learning basically means that the input is also defined and the output is also defined. And the algorithm is just supposed to find patterns or insights based on that. Basically, the data that is used for supervised learning, that is labeled or organized to some extent. In unsupervised learning, the data is not labeled to that extent. And then the task of the algorithm then becomes to, based on just random input, then its task becomes to actually find hidden pattern and insights and then arrive at the output from there. So these are basically the two differences between supervised and unsupervised learning. So once you are done, you can stop the recording. You can also review the recording right after that. You can play it back. You can fast forward it, and you have all those functionalities. This also is a huge game changer because as applicants, you have a significant change in how you view your answers or your overall interview performance when you actually see a recording of yourself. So at this stage, you don't even need a recruiter. You can actually look at your own recordings, and then this is the one part of the self-assessment that we discussed earlier. So this also plays a huge role. Automatically, you can identify a bunch of elements that ideally should not have been there, or ideally that you can identify and work upon on your own. So you can play back the recording if you want, but if not, then you can simply submit the interview for AI review. And so these are basically the interview questions, and then I'm clicking on submit for review. So here again, it takes a few minutes. And once it's done, then you can just sort of check that out in the My Recordings and Reviews section. So within the interview practice tab, you have the practice module. And so from here, you have a bunch of different ways in which you can go about practicing mock interviews. All the interviews, all the practice interviews that you record, all of those things you can find in the My Recordings and Reviews section. So this is the one that we recorded just now. Instantly, I get a AI score of good effort and a score out of 100. But this is where I can actually see the AI report in comprehensive AI report. So here it will tell me that I got like a 6 out of 10 in terms of speech evaluation. Body language was very average at best. And then here I can get a question level analysis as well. So in case this interview round had, let's say, 5 questions, so I would be getting a question level analysis of all those questions that I would have attempted in that interview round. So here you have like an instant AI review, which is generated based on the recording that you just did. So you get an overall score. Your answer is analyzed based on speech patterns, based on body language as well. But more importantly, you get an analysis of the content as well. So that also is a game changer. So it it understands what you discussed in the interview answer. It will tell you what went well, what needs improvement. It says that I could have elaborated more on real world applications to make it more engaging, which is obviously true. It will tell me what went well. So it says that I was able to actually explain the differences between supervised and unsupervised learning. It also tells me what extra I could have done to actually impress the recruiter, wherein I could have mentioned the importance of each type of learning. I could have given different scenarios. And it finally will give you a refined answer wherein it will incorporate all the individual feedback it gave till then, and it will give you a final sample answer for this entire question. You can go through it, you can check out the entire AI review, and you can practice this question or any other as many times as you want. Here, beyond the content analysis, you also get a deep dive into the speech evaluation report as well. So it says that the talking speed was it analyzes the talking speed, it analyzes how much variation was there in my pitch. It analyzes and identified that I use a lot of filler words. So 12 filler words, and those again, they don't give a great impression. And if you go further down, you can see that like it analyzes your posture as well. So it will tell me that the shoulder alignment was not in place. I was not positioning myself in the center of the screen. My eye contact was shoddy at best, and then my distance from the screen was appropriate. So all of these factors, it gives you an instant analysis for any factor that you want to understand more, or like study more. You can just click on the understand your evaluation button that you see below each factor, and you can get an instant deeper analysis of what actually that factor entails. So it will tell you that, for example, for speech rate, it will tell you what is that factor, why is it important, what's the ideal speech rate, and it will give you tips on how to improve that as well. And it will do the same for every factor that you see here. For same thing for pitch, same thing for let's say filler words as well. So it will tell you, it will also give me a timestamp of where exactly I used those filler words. It will give me tips on how I can go about preventing more of these filler words, and it will give me real world tips that are actually useful in my context. So there you have it, like instant AI analysis of as many like questions as you want to practice. And then finally, after the questions that are based on the job role and the questions that are based on a job description, in addition to that, we have also curated a bunch of interview questions uniquely and separately across a bunch of different industries and profiles as well. So again, so that means you have three different ways in which you can practice, so you don't run out of excuses again. Either you can enter job roles directly here, or you can paste the job description that you are targeting, or we have also curated a bunch of these interviews for you across all these different industries. So arts and science, business related, engineering, general behavior, marketing comms, maths and stats, and so on. So all of these are your categories. Within each industry as a category, you can see a bunch of interview rounds, and you can see the questions in each round as well. So you can see the duration and the number of questions present in those rounds. So for business, for engineering, development, you all of that, you categorize across mechanical, software, machine learning, engineering, database systems, and so on. So again, you can pick any category at random, and the process again remains the same. There's on-screen calibration of your of a bunch of factors. Once that is taken care of, you click on begin the interview, and then the question starts. You have some thinking time, and then you can take it forward from there. So I think this is broadly these are broadly the three ways in which you can go about practicing for interviews. The final piece of the puzzle is the learning module, which again is immensely helpful to a lot of students, because here you can actually navigate the entire learning module based on however you see fit or whatever your individual requirements are. So what we have done is we have in terms of the course itself, there is a fast track preparation or there is a comprehensive preparation course. Comprehensive one has 32 video lessons. The fast track one has 14 video lessons. But beyond just the entire course, we have also broken that down into unique pain points as well. So let's say, there are video lessons on pre-interview preparation. What are the different ways in which you can structure your interviews, general interview questions, career gaps, making a good first impression, how to sell yourself in an interview, common behavioral questions, so all of follow up after interview, salary negotiation. So all of these, there are these individual problem areas as well. So let's say if you don't want to navigate through the entire course, if you've identified that these are your problem areas, so you can specifically target that through the learning module. So we have the learning module categorized across these problem areas. And additionally, we have categorized that across individual job roles as well. So here you have basically across dozens of roles, you have literally thousands of questions within the learning module as well. So so again, it is categorized across a bunch of industries: accounts, business, admin, IT, teaching, legal. All of these industries are covered. Within each industry, you can see how many profiles are included. So here, let's say on the right, I can see that within accounts and finance, I have all these different profiles. And for each profile, I have all of these individual questions as well. So let's say for finance manager, I have 65 questions. And then as I go ahead, again, for every industry, I see a bunch of unique profiles. And for every profile, there are dozens or hundreds of questions that you can go about with your learning module. So to give you an idea of how this works, let's say if I go with the front-end developer. So within that profile, I see on the left, let's say for front-end developer, I have 71 questions on the platform. For every question, I can see what is the overview and what are the interview expectations. So the sample answer alone, in our experience, we started with just the sample answer, but later on we included these two fields as well. So in our experience, that really helps the job seeker, if you're preparing for interviews, beyond just a sample answer that's provided to you, if you can actually dig deeper behind the question, if you can understand what is the logic of even asking this question in the first place, what are the expectations that the recruiter has in place for that specific question, those are, I think, in my opinion, those are more important than the sample answer itself. Because once those, once you know exactly what are the expectations in place and what is the overview, the logic of that question, then it would be much, much easier for you to structure that answer on your own. So basically, for all the questions that you see, you get the overview and the interview question, the interview expectation, and the sample answer in the end. So you have access to dozens of questions across dozens of profiles across all these different industries. So you will never run out of material, or you will never run out of questions to practice. So that is essentially our interview practice module in a gist. I'll just quickly check if we have covered everything. So yeah, so basically, there are the first half of the screen. Basically, when you land on the interview practice tab, so either you can create instant mock interview questions based on just a job title, or you can paste the entire job description as well. So I'm just quickly recapping whatever we discussed, so everyone is aligned. Here, you can also personalize these questions that are generated. So you can choose the level of experience you have. You can choose the difficulty levels for these questions. And then, more importantly, for every question, you can understand the expectations that the recruiter has in place as well. So once you get a behind the scenes peek of every question, it is much easier and much better for you to then structure the answers post that knowledge. So, and then finally, after beyond just the job role and beyond just the job description, we have also curated, all of these different profiles and industries and questions for you. So when, let's say, you are not practicing, you can, check out the learning module. You can just go through the questions around or similar to your profiles. You can see like what are the different kinds of questions that are typically asked, and you can see why those questions are asked, what are the recruiters or interviewers they are expecting behind for those questions. And like using the sample answer, you can get a great starting point to actually go about structure your own answer from there. So this is all the AI evaluation that is there in place. So it gives you not just an instant analysis on the content of the answer. It will tell you what you did well, what all could what you could have done differently, and finally around the content, it will give you a final refined answer. But beyond just the content, it will also analyze your speech patterns and your non-verbal cues as well. So your speech rate, pitch variation, filler words, your eye contact levels, your how you are positioned on the screen, and so on. Finally, we have the learning module. So, like I said, we have categorized that across different courses as well. And we have categorized that across individual pain points as well. So, whatever your learning preferences are, depending on whatever state of preparation you are in, either you are maybe, let's say, starting your interview preparation from scratch. So, in that case, you can, let's say, start with the entire course. Or let's say you are somewhere in the middle of your preparation journey, and you know that there are these few things that are working out for you, but there are these few problem areas that you need to focus on. So you can uniquely identify those problem areas and specifically work on those. So now, I think with broadly the interview platform, I think we have covered that, and we have covered how, you can sort of practice, there's no end to how much you can learn or how much you can practice using the platform. But I just wanted to take a minute and discuss, overall, take a step back and discuss the career trajectory, of all of every one of you present here in general. So I have been just to give you some perspective, I have appeared at, and I have failed, I've failed to clear more interviews than I can count. Also on the flip side, I have interviewed hundreds, if not thousands of people across the last few years. So I've been on both sides of the table. And as there could be the people who have joined us here, you could either be starting out your career, or you could be transitioning, or you are somewhere it's been a few years into your career, and then you are looking to sort of level up from there. So regardless of the stage, at which you are in your career. There are basically, so I like, either you can go for your outbound interview. So basically it just means that, like, you just go on job boards and you are applying whatever jobs that you see, you are applying, and then so that is your outbound job search technique. Much better way is to create, so that is a long term project, so which is why this goes beyond just the immediate interview that you're preparing for. So which is why I asked you to take a step back and just take a snapshot view of your career and how you ideally foresee your career, evolving or shaping up over the next few years. Ideally, what you can try to go for is to create an environment and create a space wherein you, over the long run period, you are not reaching out to companies. You create a brand or you create a space wherein companies end up reaching out to you in order to fill, their vacancies. So this is not like an overnight project. It it can include months or years in the making, but ideally, if it really helps, if you know this, again, regardless of which stage of your career you are in, but if it will really help if you sort of place that as a target for like a medium or a short or a long run period. So it always helps if you are constantly identifying and constantly acquiring new skills, if you're identifying what are the relevant skills that are in the market that could be relevant in the future. So all of these, if you are on top of these things, and that really sort of helps you gain a advantage over the competition. Beyond that, again, regardless of your industry, regardless of your role, it will really help if you are in touch, or you are on top of the latest trends in AI and tech. So tech and AI, we have seen till now, and we will be seeing that in the future. They will inevitably end up playing a role in every industry that we are in. So again, regard if you are in tech, even more so, but even if you are not in tech, it will really help to keep abreast of all the events or all the trends that are happening in this space. Again, regardless of the stage where you are in, it will really help if you start building or if you start working on your personal brand. So that means identifying who the thought leaders are in your space, who would you want to sort of engage with or associate with, and meaningfully engage with them, engage with their content. It's a long term project, but it will really give you dividends down the line. So try to sort of make it a long term goal to position yourself as a thought leader in your space. If you make that as a goal, it's only inevitable in the long run that you end up meeting them. Beyond that, try to be try to keep a track of any workshops or training or certifications that you can acquire or that are happening in your space. And if nothing else works, then I the volunteering bit is like my personal favorite, because if you are absolutely stuck somewhere, if you can't figure out anything, I would just recommend that you find the nearest volunteering opportunity, and then you take it forward from there. Because honestly, the world will never be short of people who can lend a helping hand, and that will really sort of give you a lot of perspective that you can then, and time that you can then take to figure out your next steps. So I think this brings us to an end to this session. I hope, all of you, who were a part of the session, I hope, you are leaving the session with some interesting, some useful insights, or, that you can actually use in your own career preparation journey. I would be more than happy to take up any questions that any one of you might have. Please feel free to leave that in the chat or the Q&A section, and we would be more than happy to take it up. So I think Sumer asked if in Canada we can use web. I don't think there is a geographical limitation to the usage. So I think independent of the location, you can use the platform from wherever you are. Alexandra mentioned if after uploading that is a great question, Alexandra. That actually is in our product roadmap as well, wherein ideally we want to generate questions based on just the resume alone. So interesting that you asked this today as well. But yeah, so that unfortunately we don't have that functionality at the present moment. But rest assured, that is one of the things that we are genuinely working towards. So that also is the natural culmination of this entire process, wherein ideally in a single platform, your resume, your interview preparation, all of that ideally is linked, so that you just work on your resume, and then based on the resume, it can generate interview questions based on, let's say, your cover letter, that you build, or the LinkedIn profile that you review. Based on all these individual modules, we would ideally want to link them to an extent wherein you don't have to necessarily move from one to the other. Your inputs, let's say, during the resume stage will help the platform to generate interview questions and so on. So if you happen to have any other queries, please, any other question, please leave them in the Q&A, or if any observations are there, any feedback around the session, if you like, I would be more than happy to go through any feedback that you might have around the session, anything that you feel that I might have missed, or that ideally, if you want me to cover something either in today's session, and or I'm sure we can organize more sessions like that in the future as well. But any sort of feedback, I would really welcome that as well. Someone asked if you offer help with resume building as well. Yes, Resume Builder is also part of the platform that you have access to. And this session was particularly around just interview preparation. But if you will log into the platform, the Resume Builder is also it's actually the starting point of the actual platform. And there as well, it's we have tried to design this entire resume building workflow in an intuitive way. So you can also check out the resume builder on your own, or we have also the chat support at your disposal. So let's say if you are working on the platform, if you're working on your resume or even the interview preparation, or let's say you come across any any question, any concern, any bottleneck, you can also avail the chat support as well. So our support team would also be more than happy to help you out. But yes, we also the resume builder is also part of the platform that you have access to. I would be more than happy to wait for a few minutes if that will help. But you can take your time, and if there are any questions, any observations, any feedback, please feel free to leave them in the chat or the Q&A section. I think regarding the recording as well, I think Jade has clarified that in the chat section, but the recording of this session will also be shared with you once it's over. So I don't think there should be any problem there as well. Sorry, I missed a question. I think Josh asked if the biggest or most frequent flop. So basically, yeah, I think again, interesting question. So I think something that I sort of glossed over in the session, but in my observation, like I said, most people tend to uh, give a lot of importance to the technical competency aspect of the job, and not a lot of corresponding importance to the communication aspect of the job. So granted, of course, the technical capability, the technical competency, that of course is the foundation on which the entire application process will rest. But rest assured, people will tend to over fixate on the the technical competency part of it. And that will usually come at the cost of not focusing on your communication skills, or what do you convey through various verbal or non-verbal cues. So all of these different sort of insights that you convey through your body language, through your posture, through the way you communicate, through the way you talk. So all of these things, they play a huge role. I'm not sure how many of us actually sort of would believe in that. But since I have and we have talked to thousands of recruiters, we have actually hired, we have done recruitment of our own as well. I have personally been to so many interviews, more than I can count. So that across all this entire spectrum, I think this has to be the biggest sort of learning that I try to pass on every chance that I get. That the technical competency is of course important, but do not ignore the communication aspect of the job, because essentially that is the point of the interview. The fact that you reach the interview stage, it means that some technical competency is already taken care of. The purpose of the interview is to actually gauge your communication skills and how well will you be fitting in with the rest of the team or the company. I hope I was able to adequately answer any the questions that came in. In case I might have missed anything, please feel free to let me know. Or if there are any other questions, I would be more than happy to take that as well. Someone asked if it's a free platform. Yeah, so for WayUp, users, it's a free platform. So all the products that you saw on the platform, the resume builder, the interview prep, all of that, courtesy of the partnership between WayUp and Hiration, for you as the end user, it would be completely free.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we can close out now.
I think so.
Thank you everyone for attending, and I hope you found today's session useful. This recording will be emailed to everyone in the next 24 hours, so you'll have access to rewatch it and use it as a guide as you use Hiration.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, everyone. I hope this session was worth your while. I hope all of you are leaving the session with useful tips that you can use for your own career. Thanks a lot.
Okay, all right, bye.
Awesome.